viewers like you and by the following.
Joe. Well, it's a scary situation, as you know, in Texas and Louisiana tonight. The outer bands of the Category 4 Hurricane Rita already over vulnerable New Orleans. Just 3.5 weeks after Category 4 Katrina made horrible history all along the Gulf Coast. Rita spent Thursday tracking slightly further to the east than had been predicted. And now the evacuations, which have emptied Galveston and clogged Houston's highways, have spread to the coast of Louisiana. The cities now in the storm's devastating crosshairs appear to be Port Arthur and Beaumont, Texas, as well as Lake Charles, Louisiana, and 2 major metropolitan areas certainly will feel Rita's wrath as well. They are Houston and cruelly New Orleans once again. MSNBC's Rita Cosby is on the ground in Galveston Island, where it was an eerily sunny day today. Rita?
Good evening, Tucker. Indeed, the residents here in Galveston Island on Texas are bracing for the worst, and the worst is yet to come. It is expected to come here in the next 24 to 36 hours, and the hurricane is expected to be a big one. And indeed, Galveston Island is expected to be in the crosshairs. Let me show you sort of the scene over my shoulder here tonight. You can see the waves are just crashing here. And in fact, in the last few hours, the waves have really heightened. A few hours ago, we just saw some very small waves. We could barely even see the whitecaps. But in the last few hours, the waves have basically quadrupled, a sign that there will be a lot of strong storm surge, there will be a lot of high winds, and a lot of powerful water coming on board. Also, if we can pan a little bit further to the right, you can see that there are still lights on in the city tonight, just a few lights, some on the roadways, some on the commercial buildings. At this point, all power is operational in Galveston Island. And of course, residents are hoping it's going to stay that way, but we're told from folks at the emergency services that should a big hurricane hit, one of the first things that's going to happen is we're going to lose power, we're going to lose electricity, we could also lose some communication services. And another big fear tonight is also that the hospitals may not be working. They're trying to evacuate the hospitals, they're trying to evacuate the nursing homes, and they're also trying to evacuate those who are disabled. Anybody who needs some extra care has basically been bussed out of the city. You can see just a few cars are on the roadways because at this point, this town, basically the population of 60,000, at this point has about 3,000 or 4,000 residents who are in the area, just a few mostly emergency services personnel and basically also reporters. The big concern is this wall of water. If we can pan a little bit further to the right, sort of the darkened area right before the roadway is the seawall. You can get a little bit of a shot of it there. The seawall that goes all around this city is about 15 to 17 feet high. That sounds pretty significant, and that happened after the 1900 hurricane that basically decimated that city. What happened there was an enormous wall of water came in, killing about 12,000 people, and then after that, they built the city up about 15 to 17 feet. Sounds like it would be sufficient, but not if you listen to what the city manager here told me a few hours ago. He said that if this hurricane hits, and hits with a really strong force in this area, it could hit with a 50-foot wave. You do the math. That means that we could see a wall of water going up over 30 feet over that massive, massive seawall. And that means that there will be significant devastation to this area, that a lot of flooding will take place, particularly on the north side of this area, also the western side of this island. And if you look at right now the waves, all the whitecaps that are happening tonight, water is going to be key. This small island, if you look at it basically in size, it is 2 to 3 miles wide. It is about 30 miles long, and that means if a wall of water comes tumbling over it, it will do significant damage. It is low-lying after those seawalls, and we're told, in fact, that the only hotel that we're staying in tonight is basically going to be the only building that's going to be left standing. It is a San Luis hotel. That is if worst-case scenario takes place. That is because back in the 1800s and 1900s, it actually was used for an army garrison, basically a bunker. So that may be the safest place. Of course, that's where we're going to be staying. That's where the emergency personnel are also going to be staying, and we will be there throughout the night, hoping, of course, that the rest of the island will also stay intact. But right now, if you look at that wall of water, you look at the waves right now, it looks like a very ominous, very strong storm is going to be heading to this area. Tucker, back to you. I know we're going to be talking with you tomorrow night, tracking the storm right here from Galveston Island.
Thanks a lot, Rita. Well, among the busiest people in America this hurricane season continues to be Max Mayfield of the National Hurricane Center. He joins us now. Max, what do we know about where this hurricane is going to hit? We're hearing all sorts of conflicting conflicting forecasts about it.
Well, we just issued the official government forecast, and we didn't change it at all. We still have the center of the hurricane coming into the extreme upper Texas coast. I don't really want anybody to think that we can give a perfect forecast, so it obviously could be a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right of that. It will have a big impact on the storm surge, on exactly where it makes landfall. If it comes in on the track we have now, the high storm surge will likely be in the Port Arthur, Beaumont area, and also over to Cameron, Louisiana, and up in the Lake Charles area. If it were to move just a little bit to the west of our forecast track, we're in that high storm surge could still go up into Galveston Bay.
Well, explain for viewers who've been following this day after day and, like me, are ignorant of meteorology, why can't we get more precise forecasts? Why don't we know for certain where it's going to land? Why is there that unpredictability still?
Tucker, you know, every time we sit down to make a forecast, we make a 5-day forecast every 6 hours, we try to make a perfect forecast. The atmosphere is unbelievably complex, and we look at a variety of different computer projections every time we make this forecast, and they never all agree. We are doing everything we can, including flying the NOAA jet, not through the hurricane, but in the environment around the hurricane to sample the steering currents and all that. There's just a ton of information that comes back from that aircraft. There's so much we can begin to look at it, but if we get that into the computer models, the computers can handle that, and that is indeed making an impact and giving us a lot better forecast than we used to. When I first came here in 1972, the 3-day forecast areas were over 400 nautical miles, and now they've come down to less than half of that. So we are making improvements, but we can't give that perfect forecast, and we really want to let people know that. And I think one reason that the National Hurricane Center has the credibility we have is that we've been very, very honest with people. We verify every forecast we make. They're all out on the web for anybody to look, and you can actually go back several years, actually decades, and see how we've improved with time.
You had said earlier that you believe that Hurricane Rita was going to be as devastating or could be as devastating as Hurricane Katrina. Do you still think that based on what you've been seeing today?
Well, it certainly can be if it, and of course, the worst case scenario would be if it were to move in just a little bit to the south of Galveston Island, and that would push 15 and 20 feet of storm surge all the way up into Galveston Bay, and all those petrochemical plants there and communities would have extreme devastation there. If it eases a little bit to the east of Galveston, it will actually, well, we'll have storm surge flooding certainly on High Island, the Boulevard Peninsula, and Galveston Island, but a lot of the water from the bay would actually be pushed out of the bay, and the water would go down there. So this is really critical whether it hits that extremely populated area there around Galveston, Houston, or eases off a little bit to the east like we're forecasting now.
Max Mayfield, the National Hurricane Center, a man who's likely to get just about no sleep over the next few days. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
Hurricane Rita is expected to make landfall. You just heard almost exactly 24 hours from right now. The center of the storm will likely strike near Beaumont, a southeast Texas town of about 110,000, not far from the Louisiana line. ExxonMobil has already closed its refinery there. Beaumont's hospitals and nursing homes have been evacuated, but could everyone who wanted to evacuate, in fact, get out? That's one of the questions we'll ask our next guest. He's Beaumont Mayor Guy Goodson. He joins us now by phone. Mayor Goodson, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker. We're great to be on the show.
Has everyone who needs to get out, who wants to get out, been able to get out of Beaumont tonight?
We've been very pleased that we've been able to move those evacuees who didn't answer the voluntary evacuation, but who did after we called for the mandatory evacuation. We believe that our special needs, medical needs, primarily people are out, and the other people who wanted to get out are out. There are still people here, though, just like was mentioned earlier about Galveston.
I'm sorry to say what you already know, Mr. Mayor, but it looks like, according to forecasters, your town is really going to catch it in the teeth from this storm. I'm sorry. Are you planning to stay in Beaumont?
Yes, in fact, both the mayor, the city manager, and a number of key city employees, firefighters, police officers, all plan on staying. We have gotten a relationship through our Port of Beaumont here, which is right by our downtown area, with the Department of Transportation and the Maritime Administration, which has been kind enough to work with us to let us place fire trucks, EMS vehicles, police cruisers on 2 of the ships that were involved in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Enduring Freedom, and those ships are going to be used to stage operations for the return into the city after the storm, so that we will have an immediate presence of fire, police, and EMS as soon as the storm tracks through our area.
Good for you. I admire what you're doing. You're the mayor. I think you should stay, though I think you're a brave man for doing it. Are you worried? Is your family worried that you might be hurt? This storm is really enormous.
My family's in the Dallas area, and they are worried sick, but if you saw the size of these vessels and the enormity of the equipment and ordnance that is put on these during these military operations, it's really quite mind-boggling. And the ship draws about 28 to 30 feet of water. It's sitting in a 40-foot channel, and they told me today that if the storm becomes very bad and the storm surge gets to that kind of 20-foot level they said it could, they can actually fill the ballast of the bottom hole of the ship and literally sink these 2 ships down in the mud, and they'll just be like a gigantic anchor with all of us on board. So we're not worried about our health or well-being. We're obviously worried about those people who don't have the benefit of something like the city has put together for its key employees. We're worried that people are staying and they shouldn't.
Now, but what about the people who've left? I mean, we know from Katrina, we know from looking at footage from wars that when people's homes are destroyed, their neighborhoods become unrecognizable after some disaster. It's pretty traumatic. Do you think the people of your town who have gone to Dallas or north of Houston are ready for what they might return to?
Probably it would not have been had it not been for the incredible footage of not only New Orleans but the devastation in Mississippi and parts of Alabama. I think that was a stark realization of what they may face. And most of the people I know, people even that used to be, I would say, quietly optimistic about what a storm's damage would do, are very stern-faced and somber as they left this city over the last 2 days. People realize the gravity of a Cat 4 storm.
Well, since you're an elected official in the state of Texas, I can't resist asking you what you thought of the evacuation today and yesterday. Those pictures we had, I'm sure you've seen them, of the highway completely backed up, leaving the Gulf area and completely open on the other side. That struck a lot of us watching as a pretty inefficient way to run an evacuation. What do you think of that?
Well, we have a transportation plant here, and we did turn roads north. The Department of Public Safety did here in an effort to try to get more people out. It was still a long, arduous drive. Unfortunately, not enough people take the voluntary evacuation notice seriously and get out. They kind of wait to play that old roulette game of where the storm's going to go before they make the decision to leave, and then they throw themselves into the teeth of that traffic. And so no plan is good. As I heard someone say to Bill White in Houston, the mayor, when you're trying to get a couple of million people out of a city of almost 4 million, I mean, there's just not enough road surface to do that in a short period of time.
Yeah, that's true. Mayor Guy Goodson of Beaumont, Texas, a man who is staying, knowing full well what could happen, knowing full well the dimensions of this hurricane, and he's staying behind anyway because it's his city. Good for you, Mayor Goodson. We admire you. Thanks.
Thank you, Tucker.
Still ahead in the situation, Hurricane Katrina ravaged New Orleans like no storm ever had. Could Hurricane Rita lay the same city to waste again? Hard even to imagine that. The people trying to recover from the first killer storm are readying themselves for one just as damaging. We've got the latest details and their chances of success. Plus, authorities in Texas have done their best to get citizens to pick up and leave. The problem? They all seem to pick up and leave at the same